do not know where to begin. Hello and welcome to the NT Recap, where we aim to discuss just enough news to recap the week that's been in and around the NT. I have to say, I actually don't know where to begin because we have so much happening in the NT right now. But I guess I should start off with the logical thing is that the elections are on the 22nd of August, and we are currently in caretaker mode. But before that happened, a whole bunch of developments kind of happened. I mean...
3 weeks to go till the election. We knew that when you go caretaker mode, the government can't make any decisions. We knew there were a couple of big decisions that had to be made, which one was the release of the financial situation for the territory, which was released earlier this week.
$8.2 billion in debt.
$8.2 billion in debt. And the other one, of course, was that whether or not we would get the gardens development. And Eva Lawler, the planning minister, knocked that on the head just a few days ago as well. So probably the last two decisions that had to be made by the government before we go into caretaker mode.
Proper territory mode. Leave it to the last minute. Don't get anything done before the deadline. Use that deadline as far as you can. I think it was. I'm proud. I'm territory proud of that.
But in terms of that, I mean, I think a lot of people are happy that development is not going ahead. But other developments are happening around the territory. One of them being the fuel reserves that were...
the development that we didn't know anything about. And I got the sense that even the Chief Minister didn't know that much about it in advance. Of course, we're talking about the development which was announced by, Marissa Payne and Linda Reynolds, who's the Defence Minister, in Washington, D.C., where they came out with the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, and said, one of the things we're going to do is of our new alliance with the US, or our continuing alliance with the US, is build a giant fuel port in Darwin.
It's a surprise, isn't it, really?
It was a big surprise.
Sometimes when you get amongst all these people and you've got an opportunity to say something, sometimes maybe it's said and then maybe there was a quick call done to the NT government, which might have explained Michael Gunner's press conference.
Which and he said that pretty much he got asked about, well, how much will that do for the economy? What kind of jobs will that be bringing? And pretty much he said, look, I can't tell you too much detail because I don't know much. What I can tell you is...
But he didn't say you don't know too.
No, but he did say it will be thumpingly large.
Thumpingly large.
That's large, one presumes.
It's a unique choice of adjective. But I tell you what, we kind of use the same words all the time. I think it's a great chance for us to start expanding our vocabulary.
And I think he has really been expanding his vocabulary this COVID season.
Yeah. When we were allowed to get maggot for Territory Day, that was a great day for everybody. But thumpingly large, that's exciting for
it's thumpingly large.
Story.
There's a couple of interesting points about that strategic. Well, it's called the US-funded, commercially operated strategic military fuel reserve.
What's the acronym for that one?
4 times bigger than the VOPAC one, which is at East Arm. But interestingly, because we have a leasehold on the harbour at the moment from China, we're owned by a Chinese company, of course, it's saying we won't be building anywhere in that leasehold. So where that is going to go is as yet undisclosed. Although we do seem to know that it won't be at Gunpoint and it won't be at Glide Point. The same as the Deepwater Port won't be at Glide Point.
Yeah, well, that was another development that was talked about, which was the Gunpoint was released in terms of development opportunities there, and then Glide Point, that was also talked about this week, and how the seabed mining kind of might not happen.
The Deepwater Port has been talked about and was talked about a few months ago, like at the end of maybe last year as well, about the US Navy looking for a Deepwater Port, because it's all to do with the global economics. And that's sort of an interesting point for what's happened in the NT this week, is that we are at the mercy of a lot of things that aren't anything to do with us generating them. We're at the global politics. At the moment, we're under the COVID situation globally, and we, to an extent, are not really that in charge of where we're
Same
going.
as the solar panels that just been announced as
another development
like a
project.
fast-track project, a major project. What is it? $22 billion.
$22 billion
on the solar project, that which all is going to take to Singapore. That power.
We will get some of that power, though, just a little tiny bit of it, but most of it goes to Singapore. But that is a really good project for the federal government to.
And that's just outside of Tennant Creek.
Tennant Creek, And I'm excited about that as a space for the Northern Territory to kind of lead in as a renewable energies space, because when it comes to what we can do as the Territory to lead somewhere with a more sustainable outcome, as opposed to it being like, bam, done, get rid of it, I think it's really exciting. Solar is going to be a big part of our future, I think.
Yeah,
Can I ask you two a question? The question is this. Okay, what's been intriguing me in the last few days is, okay, we know that we're in some sort of, we're in a deep hole in terms of our financial situation.
Yeah.
$8.2 billion. Okay, how will we get out of it? Well, one of the ways is we say, okay, we're going to frack. And we're going to get gas and we're going to get resources and we're going to look at mining leases, 13 mining leases that are waiting. Okay, if you don't want to go down that line, do you want to go down the line of making money from military asset buildup?
Yeah.
Now, I would have thought that if you're on that side of the fence politically, that you might have the same view about both things, both of which are listed as being potential economic saviours.
I have reflected on this, and I actually don't know where I stand. I think that's a very good question, and it's something that people will probably be thinking about themselves, because I actually find a little bit nervy that there is such a military presence up in Darwin, and it is going to be such a big base. I mean, you were talking before about the Brisbane line, and how back in the day we didn't want to defend past that, and now it's such a strategic stronghold up here.
We drew a line and we said forget about North Australia, and now we're saying we've got to actually put military stuff.
But it's a lot of stuff that's happening, so it is a bit. I don't know to answer the question. I mean, Amy?
I mean, look, this is the thing. That's what everyone is talking about right now. How do we rebound an economy out of that insane amount of debt? But also, like, how do we do that when we were potentially having a little bit of a fall anyway with our economy? I think it's actually... I'm an optimist, you should know that about me. So I think it's actually an exciting time, even though we're going to be starting from down here, as the safest place in Australia to be. We're going to be the first to rebound.
Yeah.
So how do we start thinking about turning faces towards Darwin and getting some new investment that doesn't necessarily mean foreign-owned things taking over stuff here?
Yeah. But
I think first off, we need to make more babies and more people.
And here we are back again. I reckon we've talked about this several times, but we need more people.
Yeah, we need more people.
We need more Territorians.
Yeah, exactly.
We've lost the federal seat. Yeah. We're losing tax revenue. These sorts of things are really important.
Yes, because you're talking about that in terms of the GST as well, and how that's been big on the news at the moment about how the NT is losing a lot of money in terms of GST revenue, which is our major source of income.
If you're looking at schools and all those sorts of things.
Exactly, and it affects schools or hospitals, it affects police, and I mean, in terms of the police, we were talking about the AFP and how that they're going to go now.
So from today, there are 70 less AFP police officers here. They've been obviously here, staffing the borders and whatever, and now, of course, we were like, well, how do we support that? Well, the government, the NT government, have put in $20 million, another of the last days.
We're in debt, but we can give you $20 million.
And that means that still the NT police will be under the same sort of stresses that they've been on. Long shifts, and we all have to raise our hands and say, well done, NT police, because they're working incredibly hard, but they're now 70 staff down. Those staff that will be funded by the $20 million are not turning up today. That'll be in a little while.
Yeah. So I reckon we send Territorians down to the border, like they do for the cane toads in WA. I reckon for sure send some people down
there. Build a rabbit-proof fence, build a COVID point.
Or even like Game of Thrones it, build a massive wall for the White Walkers, because it's
I think that might have been tried politically in other places.
Let's move swiftly along and stop talking about that. But I mean, I quickly wanted to say it has been a horror week in NT roads at the moment, and if we're talking about producing more babies, the ones on Earth, you need to look after yourselves, because they've said about 20 crashes has happened involving serious injuries and death around the NT, and it's just because people, I guess, haven't been driving, and now the restrictions and everyone's on the road again, and people have got to be safe.
And of course we've also got the thing where people are not wearing their seatbelts, and they're in big troopies or whatever, and
or
they're
drinking
on dangerous roads and all those sorts of things. It's not one of our proudest moments, and it's certainly not one of our proudest weeks in terms of road safety.
No, definitely not. But let's talk about in terms of what's been happening around the place.
Well, I mean, look, the people are on the roads because there's things happening around the place. For one thing, there's more of those tourism vouchers about.
Yes.
So if you missed out on the tourism vouchers,
you missed out.
Now I missed out, but last week you were saying, oh no, look, that nobody's using them. Well, it seems to be that because the actual
website's really difficult to use. Yeah.
And so now they're lining up in the centre of town trying to actually get the vouchers.
Well, I didn't have a problem when I did my voucher, but I mean, maybe I have great skills.
Savvy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think people just need to go out there, spend it, get that happening, get some more money in there. The next one's you can go up to $400 matched as well.
Yes,
so
if you travel more than 50 kilometres, I think you can get up to $400.
I'm thrilled. I think it's it was well timed, with caretaker mode coming in, that last little push for the tourism vouchers.
Yeah.
And one place that, the tourism and things like that, the conversation we're talking about with Uluru and the Mutijulu people talking about closing the airport at Yulara to stop people from hotspots getting in. And you know what, for me, I'm 100% with the Mutijulu Aboriginal Corporation who've said, let's keep that airport closed, because Mutijulu is like 25 kilometres away from Yulara. That's too close to risk somebody coming in from a hotspot, because already somebody in Alice Springs left quarantine to go and visit Uluru.
Yeah.
Hooray for them. They are way more important than an entire community.
I think at the moment the big issue is that Uluru is open and the airport is open, and they're saying we don't want it open, and the government is saying we can't really do anything about it.
We were having this discussion, we've had it in the last week. It is the risk of opening the borders. It was exactly the risk that people talked about. We knew what we were in for. 16,000 people have crossed the border since July 17. That's what we want. We need it. There's no doubt about it. We need people here and we need the tourism here. But we have got to be safe. Otherwise, we are going to be in that situation that Victoria, New South Wales and now Queensland are dealing with people who came back and
But I don't understand how the government's saying, we can't stop that airport. I don't think that they should stop it. But if people are coming to the territory, I don't know why they can't go to Darwin, do the quarantine in Darwin, and then go to Alice.
There's quarantine in Alice Springs. But you can quarantine there. Yulara is so hard to do the quarantining. I think what happens is you either quarantine in Darwin and Alice Springs, and you drive to Yulara. Yeah. That airport doesn't need to be open. I think it's
2 hours or 2.5 hours.
Yeah, 2.5 hour drive where you can actually see some of my favourite part of the Northern Territory anyway.
400 people, I think it is, who are currently in lockdown or in quarantine in the Northern Territory at the moment.
Oh, wow.
So that's still quite a lot, but it's 16,000 across the border versus 400 who are then saying, okay, you have to actually do some isolation.
And he says 16,000. There's so many things for them to come and get involved in now as well, I guess. So that's the other side of it. Our dry season is the time to be here. So I think more and more people.
For race day.
And there is exactly this long weekend that's happening, right?
Yep. The cup is on. You've got the gala ball element with the cup. And
if you have a ticket to that.
Yes, true.
Yeah. Even though the only person I know who's going to the ball at the moment got a free ticket. They didn't actually pay for their ticket. I know. There you go.
Surprises.
There you go.
I mean,
and that's an expensive ticket. But what else is happening? Because
if you're not going to the gala ball, you can go to 1 Mile Brewery's 6th birthday, the Beer and Barbecue Festival, which I think is pretty exciting at the moment because you hear Nightcliff Brewery's opening as well, and you've got Beaver Brewery. So there's all these new breweries opening in Darwin. I think it's really exciting.
And as per usual, Amy's beer report.
I was just about to say that.
If we don't get a special segment on Amy's beer report for next season, I don't know what I'm going to do.
But in terms of the Nightcliff one, what I find interesting is that they've partnered with Lucky Bat, and they want, which is the pizza shop in Nightcliff, and they want to have possibly a beer garden, which I think is kind of, exciting. It's very German, but I've been to Germany in summer and gone to beer gardens. I don't drink beer, but I like beer gardens.
Yeah, I think it's all quite exciting for producers up here of those kind of things.
Yeah.
Other things that are going on, you can go and see movies about the coast at the moment. That's going to be down at the ski club.
Exactly, on the 4th of August, I believe it is. Yeah, and that's, I think, to do with keep top-end coast healthy and those types of environmental type movies.
Of course, it just came to then. We're not far away from seeing you, of course, on stage.
Darwin Festival.
So, does anyone know what the tickets are doing? Because the last time I heard, they were just selling
there aren't many tickets left. And look, this is probably my little opportunity to say, if you haven't got a ticket yet for Darwin Festival, go do that, because the way that festival works is that it's smaller in terms of the amount of people that can go to Civic Park into the festival garden. And if you don't have a ticket for a show, you might risk not being able to get in, because ticket holders will get a priority into Festival Park.
Okay.
So if you want to go and enjoy Hanuman under the lights,
Exactly.
get tickets for something, And that's the other thing. What's the worst that can happen? You don't necessarily enjoy the show, then you've got something to whinge about for the rest of the year, because we know Darwin loves whinging. So go and see something you wouldn't otherwise expect to see.
We don't like whinging.
Don't join Darwin Have a Whinge Facebook because it'll blow your mind.
But I also know that there's a really cool restaurant that's happening in Catherine.
Yeah, let me get the name of it right. So it's the Kumbaji?
Yeah, I think so.
Restaurant. Yeah, so they're going to have a bunch of different foods, including some Indigenous flavours in the food. And
Exactly.
it used to be around, and now it's come back.
Exactly.
So Catherine people are excited, fine dining experience down there.
Exactly, because it's fine dining with Indigenous flavors
Yeah.
and modern. And I heard they have this like really cool kind of gin fizz. Did you know that gin is the fastest growing alcohol in Australia?
That makes sense. We've got our Green Ant gin from the Darwin Green Ants in it with the Adelaide Hills Distillery. We are part of
Yet
the
another
producers
thing
of
that's
that.
useless to me currently.
Yeah, sorry, you're not drinking at the moment. Me, on the other hand, I will make up for what you're doing. It's the dry season. But I think it's exciting that Catherine's got this fine dining thing, especially because the Nitmaluk region is leaders for tourism up
So
here.
is that linked to the Cicada Lodge? Because that was the fine dining with Indigenous flavours previously.
This one's a little bit closer to the city.
All right, cool.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a jam-packed show. We wish we could keep talking with you. We are going to take a break, sadly, but we hope to be back for a season 2 of the NT Recap. Stay tuned, and thank you all for joining us on the couch each and every week.